Yes, friends, now the next topic is again a very interesting topic. It's a technique of cost control, which is known as budgetary control. Now, what do we do in this topic? Basically, the objective here practically is set some budgets so that you can have a control on your actual cost structures and actual activities. Okay, what are we supposed to do as a student? Now, as a student, what we are supposed to do is, simply prepare budgets. Now, even when you go for preparing budgets, there are different types of budgets that will be asked to you, and different types of budgets will include uh, different concepts. So we'll go by one by we'll discuss all these concepts one by one. The first category is on the basis of capacity utilization, and that is called as fixed and flexible budgets. Now, a flexible budget is that which is for different levels of activities. A flexible budget is that which is for different levels of activities. But a fixed budget will be prepared only for one level of activity. So you have, suppose, capacity of producing 80,000 units, or say capacity of producing 1 lakh units. You have a capacity of producing 1 lakh units, and you have say 70,000 as a break-even point. You are producing in batches of 10,000. So 70,000 if you produce, 7 batches if you execute, you will be at break-even point. Your entire fixed cost will be recovered. You have one more option, or rather 3 more options: produce 80,000, produce 90,000, and produce 1 lakh. Produce 80,000, produce 90,000, and produce 1 lakh. Now, at which level the capacity will be maximized? At which level capacity will be maximized? Tell me. At which level capacity will be maximized? If you think that capacity will be maximized as 1 lakh units, then you're wrong, my friend. You're wrong. Because sometimes to sell more, you'll have to advertise more, so your selling and distribution cost goes up, or sometimes you have to give discount basically to attract the customer to sell more, because you cannot go beyond your market share. No, if you really want to cross your market share, please try to understand this. If you really want to cross your market share, you'll have to do something different what your market is not doing, what your competitors are not doing. So either you hire a good brand ambassador and spend on heavy advertisement, or else you go for discount, which is the most popular way of increasing the sales. This is the most popular way of increasing the sales. You know why? Tell me why. Because whenever there is a discount, people buy, whenever, even if they don't need the product, just because it is available at a discount. This is what customer is. This is what customer is all about, and that's how you're supposed to take the benefit of the customer. But in our case, if I reduce the selling price by giving discount, my revenue goes down. If I incur selling and distribution cost heavily, then my cost structure goes down, my profit again decreases. So it is not necessary that at 1 lakh level my profit will be maximum. So I will be preparing budget for 80,000 level, 90,000 level, 1 lakh level. I'll find out total cost at 80,000, total cost at 90,000, total cost at 1 lakh. And once I do that, I will write down sales at 80,000, 90,000, 1 lakh. I'll find out profit at 80,000, 90,000, and 1 lakh. And that will help me out in deciding whether I should be going for this product or not. At which level I should be going for it. Probably 90,000 will give me the maximum profit, you never know. Probably 90,000 will give me the profit, you never know. So what we can do is, I may take a call. I'll prepare budget at 80,000, 90,000, 1 lakh. My variable cost will keep on changing, but my fixed cost will remain same. I hope you know this part. So whenever you try to talk about flexible and fixed budget, you need to understand a simple demarcation, a simple bifurcation of the total cost structure as variable and fixed. Now whenever I talk about a variable cost, whenever I talk about a variable cost, even if it changes with the change in the quantity, variable cost, even if it changes with the change in the quantity, trust me, trust me, cost per unit is always constant. Shall I tell you something? Since cost per unit is constant, since cost per unit is constant, total cost keeps on changing. Now, one shirt will cost me 200 rupees, two shirts will cost me 200. One shirt cost me 200 rupees, two will cost me 400 rupees. One unit cost me 350 rupees, two units will cost me 700 rupees. Now, there won't be a discount in it, right? So, in that case, that will be considered as a variable cost. In that case, that will be considered as a variable cost. You go for movies. Sorry, you used to go for movies. How the ticket rates are written? It's 150 per person. You decide how many people you have. You 10 of you are going for a movie, 1,500 will be the total cost for you. 5 of you going for a movie, what? 750 will be the total cost for you. Just 2 of you going for the movie. 300 will be the total cost for you. If you are going for a movie all alone, then 150 will be the total cost for you. So guys, when CPU is going to be same, you should focus only on CPU. So for variable cost, you always remember one thing, you better focus on CPU, nothing else. You focus only on CPU, nothing else. You focus only on CPU, nothing else. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Okay. So, if you're focusing on something which is constant, let me tell you, for fixed, we'll have to focus on total cost. Because guys, fixed cost is a period cost. Because fixed cost is a period cost. And what do you mean by a period cost? A period cost is a cost which is incurred after a specific period of time, irrespective of your level of activity, irrespective of quantity manufactured and sold by you. If I pay salary today, my next salary will be paid next month. If I pay rent today, my next rent will be paid next month. There is no discount in that. Whether I produce, whether I don't produce, whether I double the production, whether I bring it down to 50%, it doesn't matter. The cost will be incurred anyhow. So, fixed cost, whenever you focus on, you should focus on total, because total is always going to be the constant, because it is a period cost. And the total will be incurred after a specific period of time. But variable cost is always something that changes with the change in the quantity. And that is mainly because the cost per unit of variable cost is always the same. The cost per unit of variable cost is always the same. Since cost per unit is same, you need to be very careful. Since cost per unit is the same, you have to be very careful. Focus only on CPU when it comes to variable cost. Focus only on total when it comes to a fixed cost. Focus only on CPU. Focus only on CPU when it comes to variable cost, and focus on total when it comes to fixed cost. What if you come across a semi-variable cost structure in between? If you come across a semi-variable cost, split that cost into 2 parts, because semi-variable cost is just a combination of variable and fixed. It's not actually the third type. So the moment you come across a semi-variable cost, split that into 2 parts. Variable will be recorded with variable, fixed will be recorded with fixed. For fixed, I'll start focusing on total. For variable, I'll start focusing on per unit. Nothing else I need, nothing else I want. Are you getting me? So basically, for fixed and flexible budget, you need to know the cost structure thoroughly as variable and fixed. For variable, we are supposed to focus on CPU, and for fixed, we are supposed to focus on total. So tomorrow, if they tell you there is a change in the variable cost per unit, or tomorrow if they tell you that there is a change in the variable cost, always change the CPU. And if they say there is a change in the fixed cost, always change the total. In fact, that is the reason why we need to split semi-variable as variable and fixed, because in case of a semi-variable cost, In case of a semi-variable cost, variable portion will change, fixed portion will remain same. So for variable portion, you change the CPU. For fixed portion, you change the total if there is a change in the variable and fixed cost structure. So guys, once again, for variable, focus on CPU. For fixed, focus on total. For variable, if there is a change, change CPU. For fixed, if there is a change, change total. Simple. If there is no change, follow CPU for variable cost and follow total for fixed cost. There is nothing to be done apart from this as far as flexible budget and fixed budget calculation is concerned. Now, what if we do not have breakup of semi-variable cost given? Like, for example, they may give you data like this. Period 1, period 2, quantity, say 1000, 2000, and cost is 10,000, 16,000. This clearly tells us that there is a rise in the cost of 6,000. So definitely this is not a fixed cost. Had it been a fixed cost, it would have been 10,10 for both the periods, or it would have been 16,16 for both the periods. So definitely this is not a fixed cost. Now, just because it is not a fixed cost, you can't take it as a variable cost structure, guys. I hope you know that. It can even be semi-variable, no? So let me calculate per unit here. For 1000 units, the cost incurred is 10,000. That means cost per unit is 10. For 2000 units, cost is 16,000. That means cost per unit is 8. So I can see the change in the per unit structure. So per unit is not constant. Per unit is not constant. That means it cannot be. Per unit is not constant. That means it cannot be considered as. That means it cannot be considered as a variable cost. And since total is not constant, it cannot be considered as a fixed cost. Since the CPU is not constant, it cannot be treated as variable cost. Since the total is not constant, it cannot be considered as a fixed cost. Then what kind of a cost is that? It is semi-variable cost. And if it is your semi-variable cost, how to split that? Because I'm not interested in total. So my first step will always be getting variable cost per unit. Getting variable cost per unit. How much is the difference in cost? 6,000. That is definitely because of difference in quantity. So I increased quantity by 1000 units. My cost went up by 6,000 rupees. That means definitely 6 per unit is my variable structure. 6 per unit is my variable structure. Is this part clear? Since I have a variable cost of 6 rupees per unit, I can find out total variable cost for any one period. Let's go for the first period. 1000 units into 6. 1000 units into 6. 6,000 is the cost. 1000 units into 6, 6,000 is the variable cost. 6 per unit is a variable cost. 1000 units I produce, 6,000 is my variable cost for the first period. For the first period, my total cost was 10,000. I have just got to know that my variable portion is 6,000. That means my fixed portion has to be 4,000. Now, what is the guarantee that you are teaching right? Okay. Instead of 1000, I'm taking 2000 now, which is my quantity for the second period. Okay. You don't trust me, no? No problem. I will prove it in a different manner. 2000 units. 2000 units is what I have. 6 per unit is a variable cost structure. So 12,000 will be the variable cost. If I talk about second period for which quantity has been picked up, 16,000 was my total cost. Out of 16, my calculation says 12,000 is variable. 16,000 minus 12,000, 4,000 has to be a fixed cost which is constant in both the calculations. So difference in cost upon difference in quantity will give you variable cost per unit. Use that variable cost per unit to get the total cost. Use that variable cost per unit to get the total cost. And subtract that total cost from the total, subtract that total variable cost from the total cost to get the fixed cost structure. Only this much you are supposed to understand before you start solving flexible and fixed budget questions. For variable, CPU is the base. For fixed, total is the base. Any change in variable cost will be recorded in CPU. Any change in the fixed cost will be recorded in total. If there is a semi-variable cost, split that cost into two parts. If there is a semi-variable cost, split that cost into two parts, variable as well as fixed. Variable portion will be merged with variable and fixed portion will be merged with fixed structure. It is that simple. Fixed portion will be merged with fixed. It is that simple. If you can't break the variable cost structure, this is how you can break the cost into three parts. How to break up in 3 steps. Here we go. Calculate variable cost per unit by going for the formula difference in cost upon difference in quantity. You will be getting cost per unit. Use that on any quantity structure. You will get total variable cost. For the same period, pick up the total cost, subtract this variable cost ascertained by you. You will be left with the fixed cost structure with you. This gives you complete picture of how much is variable, how much is fixed, and we can start with flexible budgeting. Correct? Let's understand a few questions, important points related to questions. So if I talk about question number 1, guys, in question number 1, they gave us information about 7,000 hours. They gave us information about 7,000 hours and they asked us to prepare budget for 80%, 90% and 100% of activity. That means by giving data for 7,000 hours, they actually asked us to prepare budget for 8,000 hours, 9,000 hours, 10,000 hours. Okay. Because your 7,000 hours was 70% capacity. So 100% capacity was definitely 10,000, no? So this is what they have asked. Fine. You have first cost structure as variable. So 1260 you have incurred. 1260 you have incurred on 7,000. So it's 0.18 per hour. As far as fixed is concerned, I know there is not going to be any change. It's going to be 1,800. If they would have mentioned any change, I would have changed 0.18 in case of variable cost and I would have changed 1,800 in case of fixed cost. So even that is fine. Then you have some information about semi-variable. It will be 10% between 85 and 95. So between 8,500 hours and 9,500 hours, it will be plus 10%. Between 8,000 hours and 9,000 hours, this will go up by 10%, and above 95%, it will go up by 20%. Oh my God, is it? That means if I talk about 8,000 hours, which is 80% of the capacity utilization, it's going to be intact at 1,200. 9,000 hours, 90%, which lies between 85 and 95, I will be taking 1,200 plus 10%, 1,320. And as far as 95% is concerned, as far as 100% activity utilization is concerned, it is above 95, so 20% will be the rise. So 1,440 will be the semi-variable cost, and that's how you are supposed to do. That's how you are supposed to find out. That's it. If there was a change, I would have recorded that change in. CPU and total of fixed cost. Question number 2 was also similar to all these things. See, in question number 2, they clearly said normally they produce 8,000. So 8,000 was your normal production. So this whole data was for 8,000. They planned a production of 10,000. So this data was 10,000. But the team has actually produced 6,000. This was the scenario. That means the first column given in the question was for 8,000, second column given in the question was for 10,000, and the third column given in the question was for 6,000 units. And they have asked us to find out whether there is a saving or not. Okay. Now see, if you really want to know the saving, then please understand one thing. Whenever you compare things, the comparison has to be at par. You can compare two different things at two different levels. You cannot compare two different things at two different levels. It will be a mistake, big mistake. Two different things cannot be compared at two different levels. They have to be compared at par. So if my actual data is given for 6,000 units, if my actual data is given for 6,000 units, I want my budgeted data also at 6,000 units level. My actual data should also be at 6,000 units level. Why? Then only the real comparison will take place. I want to know how much I was planning to do at 6,000, and I want to know how much I have done at 6,000 level. I'll find out the difference, and this is what you're going to get, and this is what you're going to get in case of variances. Comparison between actual and budget is a variance. So the variance calculation has to be done at par. That is one thing. Second important part here is before you convert your budgeted data, let me tell you one thing. Your one budgeted data is at 8,000, another budgeted data is at 10,000. Your one budgeted data is at 8,000, another budgeted data is at 10,000. That means they are not at par. So first of all, you'll have to bring them at par. Oh my God. If I want to consider something as a base, I should be having the breakup of cost structure, guys. Now, if you analyze salary to foreman, rates and taxes, depreciation, insurance, there is no change in the cost, even if there is a change in the quantity from 8,000 to 10,000. The quantity has gone up from 8,000 to 10,000, still there is no change. Still there is no change in the cost structure. That means these are fixed cost structure. If you look at 720, if you look at 800, and if you look at 320, these were cost structures for 8,000. So per unit comes to 0.09, 0.10, 0.04, and it is constant even for 10,000. So these are variable cost structures. So I had 4 fixed cost structure, 3 variable cost structures, and I also had, we have observed, repairs and power, where neither there is a constant total cost nor there is a constant CPU. Your CPU is changing when your quantity structure gets raised from 8,000 to 10,000. That means it is not a variable cost, because had it been a variable cost, CPU would have been same. It is not a fixed cost either, because total is not the same. Oh my God, that means it is a semi-variable cost. So you apply that method, you can see the working. 50 is the rise. 50 is the rise in the cost, 2000 is the rise. So I can use the same table, same data. 50 is the rise in the cost when quantity is increasing by 2000. So 50 divided by 2000, 0.025 must be the variable portion. 600 going up to 650 because of 2000 units, that means 50 rupees is your rise in the cost because of rise in the quantity by 2000. So 0.025 is your variable cost per unit. I'm applying quantity, I'm applying the first quantity 8000. So 200 is my variable cost as per the calculation. 200 is my variable cost as per the calculation, guys. 8000 into 0.025, 200. Tell me how much was my total cost at 8000. Since I have considered 8000 as a base, my total cost at 8000 was 600. Out of 600, if 200 is known to be, the fixed portion, I mean variable portion, 400 has to be fixed. Oh, you don't trust me? Never mind. I would have taken 10,000 into 0.025 and this would have been 250. My variable cost would have been 250 if I would have taken 10,000 units into consideration. At this level of 10,000, the total cost was 650. Total cost was 650. Total cost of 650. 250 variable. That means again you can say 400 is a fixed portion. This was for repairs. Same thing you have to do for power, and you get some 0.0375 as power cost, which is variable, and you also get the fixed cost. That's it. So you multiply all CPUs by 6000 to know the budgeted figure at 6000. See, I have actual data given for 6000. I have actual data given for 6000. So I want my budgeted data also at 6000. So take CPU of variable cost, apply that on 6000, you will be getting the answer. For fixed cost, don't do anything, pick up the figure and write it down because there is no change. And for semi-variable cost, for variable portion, you take the CPU multiplied by 6000 and fixed will be carried forward anyhow. And you will be able to get the difference. And you will realize that there is no saving. In fact, there is an excess cost incurred. So there is no increment or bonus to be given to the foreman. That was your question. Again, the funda was same. For variable portion, focus on CPU. For fixed portion, focus on total. If there is a change, change the CPU, change the total. And if there is a semi-variable cost, break that into two parts, variable and fixed. Variable will be treated like variable, fixed portion will be treated like fixed. Simple. Just follow that. Any question of fixed and flexible budget can be cracked down. Yes, so that was about fixed and flexible budget, guys. In fact, in question number 3 also you applied the same logic. Difference in cost upon difference in quantity you applied for factory overheads. The only important point in this question was capacity utilization, since you were going for excess utilization. Capacity of the firm was 4000, you were producing 5000. Capacity of the firm was 4000, you were producing 5000. Capacity of the firm was 4000, but you were producing 5000. That means you were implementing 1.25 weeks capacity. So fixed cost can be charged either for 1.25 weeks or for 2 weeks. If you are assuming that you are not going to produce anything apart from 5000, you double it. 2500 is what you have calculated as fixed portion multiplied by 2. If you are assuming that the balance capacity of 0.1, 0.75 weeks will be utilized for other production, then you can apply 1.25 into 2500. Both the solutions are accepted. Both solutions are considered to be right. But if I talk about market, I would always try to be there in the open market, no, rather than fulfilling only offers, because I am producing currently some units in the and to be sold in the market. I'm not following job costing. In the first week, I have sold 2000. Second week, I have sold. Third week, I have sold. This was not as per the job. This was sold in the open market. They did not specify that this was as per the job. You understood this? Both the solutions are accepted. Either you take 2500 into 1.25 weeks under an assumption that balance capacity will be utilized for other production and my balance fixed cost can be recovered from that production by preparing a separate cost sheet. That is one assumption. Second assumption is I'm not producing anything apart from 5000. Fixed cost will be doubled. Since you are crossing 1 month, 1 week, you have to pay for 2 weeks. So, any which way I am going to pay for 2 weeks, but if I am not assuming excess production, other production than 5000, then I will take 2 weeks fixed cost. If I am assuming other production also to be there, then I will split 1.25 for offer, 0.75 weeks for other production, and I will split the fixed cost accordingly. Economies of large scale. Both the solutions are right, both will be given marks. You follow whatever is told to you. So, that was about fixed and flexible, guys. Now, let's talk about functional budget. Now, let's talk about functional budget, which is a very important part of this topic. The second category of questions which are generally asked in this topic are related to functional budgets. The second category is this. First category we already discussed, fixed budget, flexible budget. First category we have already discussed, fixed and flexible. Now we'll be going for functional budget. Now general problem for students in this category is they don't realize how to start. They don't realize how to start. Okay, you already have solutions with you, right? I will briefly explain the entire method of functional budget first, then you will try to implement it. Then you try to implement it in other questions. 99% questions on functional budgets can be solved with the help of that one chart that I'm going to give you now. Trust me, that one chart is more than enough to crack 99% questions of this type. 1% will also be covered later. So, entire 100% will be covered, don't worry. Now, if I ask you how much is a raw material I'm supposed to buy, how much of raw material I should buy if I want to manufacture shirts, okay, tell me how many meters of cloth should I purchase? For that we need some information, and I think that is what, how much you want to consume. I want to consume 50,000 meters. I will buy 50,000. What if I want stock of 10,000 after consumption of 50? What if I want to maintain stock of 50,000 meters after consuming 50,000 meters? I will buy 60,000 meters. What if I want to maintain a stock of 10,000 meters after consumption of 50,000 meters and I already have 5,000 in stock? So, 50,000 I'll consume, thereafter I still be having 10,000 with me, that means I was having 60,000 total. Out of 60,000, I need a 60,000 in total, 5,000 I already have, so 55,000 will be purchased. So, basically if I want to know how much is a raw material required to be purchased, I will have to first find out how much is raw material required to be consumed. and consumption will be decided based on production. So basically you need to know how much is the quantity of finished goods you are required to produce. Okay, if I say I want to manufacture 10,000 shirts, one shirt needs 2 meters of cloth, 20,000 meters is for consumption. I want stock of 10,000 after that. Purchase 30,000. Because after consuming 20,000, if you want 10,000 to be in the stock, you should be having 30,000 with you. Okay, that 30,000 should be with you, so buy 30,000, but I already have 2,000, then buy 28,000, simply. So once you have quantity to be manufactured, you can easily go for consumption budget, you can also go for purchase budget. But how to get quantity manufactured? For that, you should be having sales quantity with you. So somehow you find out that information from the question. Find out sales budget. How much you are planning to sell? Well, sir, we are planning to sell 10,000. Then produce 10,000. And no, sir, but after selling 10,000, we want stock of 8,000 to be there with us. After selling 10,000, you want stock of 8,000. Okay, then produce 18,000. No, sir, I already have 3,000. Arey Baba, then produce 15,000. So if you know sales budget, it will be very easy for you to know the production budget. How will you go for it? See, production budget calculation is very simple. Production budget calculation is very simple. Production budget calculation is very simple. Get your quantity to be sold, add closing stock of finished goods, subtract opening stock of finished goods, add closing stock of finished goods, subtract closing stock of finished goods, and you will be ready with quantity to be manufactured. And the moment you get quantity to be produced, you can easily find out how much is the raw material required to be consumed. So this will be your raw material consumption budget. And the moment you have raw material consumption budget, your next step is going to be raw material purchase budget. Raw material purchase budget. Trust me, nothing can be asked beyond this. Find out quantity to be sold. 50,000. Produce 50,000. No, I want stock of 15,000 after that. That means you should have 65,000 with you. Produce 65,000. No, I already have 5,000 stock with me. So you want to have 65,000 with you. You already have 5,000 with you. Okay, then produce 60,000. Yes. For producing one unit of finished goods, I need 2 kgs of raw material. So for 60,000, I need 1,20,000 to be consumed. 1 unit of finished goods requires 2 kgs of raw material. So 1,20,000 needs to be consumed. Buy 1,20,000. No, I want stock of 40,000 after that. Then buy 1,60,000. No, I already have 10,000 with me. Then buy 1,50,000. And the moment you realize you're supposed to purchase 1,50,000 multiplied by the price will give you the purchase value. You understood this? Sales, production, consumption, purchase. This is what you're supposed to do. Sales, production, consumption, purchase is what you're supposed to do, nothing else. Sales, production, consumption, purchase. That's it. Then, in fact, the moment you get production budget, you can also find out number of hours required. The moment you get information about number of hours, You can even go for labor budget as well as overhead budget. You understood this? Sales, I want to sell 10,000, produce 10,000. I want stock of 7,000 after that. Produce 17,000. I already have 2,000 in opening stock. Then produce 15,000. Acha, one unit takes 3 hours. So for producing 15,000, I need 45,000 hours to be utilized, multiplied by labor rate. Will give you labor budget. 45,000 hours you required multiplied by hourly rate given for overheads will help you out in getting overhead figure as well. And guys, if you are having material, labor and overhead figure generated, your entire budget is ready, boss. I hope you are understanding what I'm saying. So all you need to know is sales budget. Raw material consumption budget and purchase budget can be merged together. I'll call it as raw material purchase budget only. Raw material purchase budget. Raw material purchase budget. What am I supposed to do with raw material purchase budget? Raw material quantity, raw material quantity to be consumed, raw material quantity to be consumed. Add closing stock of raw material, subtract opening stock of raw material. I will be getting quantity to be purchased. I will be getting quantity to be purchased. The moment you get quantity to be purchased, you multiply it by respective prices. If you have 2, 3, 4 different types of material, and you will be getting purchase cost on the last line. You will be getting purchase cost on the last line in terms of rupees. So you might be having 2 material, 3 types of material, 4 types of material, doesn't matter. You keep on preparing columns for material A, material B, material C, P, Q, R, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, whatever. Trust me, 99% questions can be solved on the basis of this. 99% of functional budget questions can be solved. Nothing can be asked beyond that. First, you find out sales quantity, go for production by using this formula. Then you go for consumption, that will give you purchase. You go for hours required after production, that will give you labor as well as overheads budget. You can copy this down if you want, functional budget. Yes, now you can copy this part, raw material purchase budget. Welcome back. So this is what we are supposed to do. How to get sales quantity? Yes, that I'll tell you now. Sales quantity can be made available in 3 different ways. Sales quantity can be made available in 3 different ways. Either it will be given to you in the question, or they will give you sales value, budgeted sales along with budgeted selling price. Company wants to earn 10 lakh rupees sales at the estimated selling price of 100. So 10 lakhs divided by 100 is 10,000 units. You can easily find out if it is not given. And sometimes they'll give you sales value and they'll give you the cost structure. So somehow you find out profit cost per unit, add profit to that, and done. Because if you have a cost structure, if you prepare a cost sheet for 1 unit, you will get total cost per unit, add profit, you will get selling price per unit. Once you get selling price per unit, you will find yourself in the second situation, and you can use it as a base. Copy this as well. Sales quantity can be generated in 3 ways. Either it will be given in the question, or it will be calculated with the help of sales and selling price, or they will give you cost structure, add the entire cost structure, add profit to that, decide cost per unit, total cost per unit, add profit, decide total selling price, use it. Sales divided by selling price, and that will give you the answer. Have you clearly understood this? This is what you're supposed to do for a functional budget question. Now let us understand how this can be implemented. Question number 4. In case of question number 4, they asked you to calculate purchase budget and wages budget. If they ask you to calculate purchase budget and wages budget, naturally you'll have to start with sales budget. Fortunately, sales quantity was given in the question. So we were supposed to apply production budget formula. So take sales quantity. We wanted to add closing stock. They said anticipated stock in the beginning, 400 and 200. And then they said their closing stock is 4 days sales and 5 days sales. If you recollect this line in the question, you will realize this. The data is given for 4 5 days weeks. The data is given for 4 5 days weeks. The data is given for 4 5 days weeks. 4 weeks of 5 days. That means 20 days. So this is also available for 20. This sales is of 20 days. This sales is also of 20 days. They want sales for 4 and 5 days. Simple it is. Are you understood this? So 2400 divided by 20 into 4. So 480 will be the closing stock of product A, and 900 will be the closing stock of product B. So you had opening stock given in the question. You knew that sales is for 20 days. 4 days upon 20 into sales of A. 5 days upon 20 sales of B gives you closing stock. You applied that. You can see the solution. You have applied that, and you have got a answer. You have got the answer of quantity manufactured. Now columns. How to decide columns? Simple. Whichever information you are giving, that will be your columns. If you are giving information about finished goods columns. If you are giving information about material will be columns. If you are giving information about labor will be the columns. So quantity to be sold for A and B will be column, plus 480 and 900 closing stock minus opening stock gives you quantity manufactured. That is what you have done. So 2400 plus 480 minus opening stock of 400. So I need to produce 2480 units of A and 4300 units of B. This is my quantity to be produced. Am I right? From quantity sold, I have jumped on quantity to be produced. Now, if you are going for material requirement, I'll tell you the simple format here. Please guys understand this. My raw material consumption budget and purchase budget can be prepared together. Because the moment I get consumption, I can easily find out purchase in the same calculation. Since I'm dealing with material, I'm going to open two columns of material, X and Y. A and B were my finished goods. A and B were my finished goods, but X and Y are my materials. Since I'm going for material information, I'm going for material columns. First question you should ask to yourself, why do we need X and Y? And the answer is to produce 2480 units of A and 4300 units of B. To produce 2480 units of A and 4300 units of B. That is why we need this. Okay, so how to get the consumption done? Product A requires 5 kgs of X and 4 kgs of Y. If A requires 5 kgs of X, 2480 into 5, 2480 into 4, 5 kgs of X and 4 kgs of Y. B requires 3 kgs of X and 6 kgs of Y. B requires 3 kgs of X and 6 kgs of Y. So, have you realized one thing? You focus either on finished goods, complete the whole calculation, or you focus on material. How to focus on material? Material X, 5 and 3 for A and B. Material X, 5 and 3 for A and B, and similarly similarly for Y it can be recorded. So either you focus on material, complete whole thing, or you focus on finished goods and complete the whole thing. Again, you can put that 2480 on a constant multiplier into 5, 12,400 into 4, 9920. $35,720 and 12,400 plus 12,900, 25,300. This is my quantity to be consumed. Plus closing less opening will give me quantity to be purchased, multiplied by purchase price will give me the purchase cost. Now, as far as closing stock and opening stock is concerned, opening stock is available 1,500. Okay, this is 1,000 and 500. Correct? So 9920 plus 25,800, 35,720, 25,300 is what I'm supposed to consume, and 1,500 I already have. What have they said about closing? 10 days consumption, 6 days consumption. Oh my God. This consumption, whatever we have got, is for 20 days, no? So 10 days consumption is going to be 25 300 into 10 upon 20, 35 720, 10 days consumption and 6 days consumption. Whatever consumption you have calculated is for the budget period, and budget period is 4 5-day weeks. 1 week consists of 5 days, 4 weeks will cost you, I mean, the total period will be 20 days. So my consumption of 25 300 is for 20 days. How much will be for 10 days? 12,650. And 35 720 is my consumption for 20 days, which is required only for 6. So 10,716 is what I need. So that's my closing stock. Have you understood this? Your consumption is of 20 days. You want to maintain 10 days and 6 days consumption in the stock. Okay. So 25 300, 12,640, so 12,650 minus 1, 36,950, and 35 720 plus 10,716 minus 500. 45,936. This is what I need to purchase. Raw material to be purchased, quantity. How much is the price given? The price given is 4 and 6. The price given is 4 and 6, which will be multiplied here. Two 75,616, 36,950 into 4, 147,800. 423,416 is going to be my total purchase cost. This is what we have. Is that part clear? So we first found out quantity sold, then we found out quantity to be produced. On the basis of quantity to be produced, we found out raw material quantity to be consumed, and based on that we calculated purchase. Closing stock was asked for 10 days and 6 days of consumption, so that was also calculated, because whatever consumption we found out, that was for 20 days. So I have got this answer. I got raw material quantity to be purchased, I applied the price, I got the value. It is that simple. So you understood this. It was that simple. Please be very clear about what you want. After this, they have asked us to go for labor budget. Now, since I already know standard as 2480 multiplied by 3 and 4,300 units multiplied by 5 will give you total standard as. You will be having information about standard as, and the question says your efficiency ratio if your efficiency ratio is 80%. Now, whenever you calculate efficiency ratio based on standard hours, whenever you calculate efficiency ratio based on standard hours or actual hours, it is standard hours upon actual hours into 100. So, if it is 80, and if you already have standard hours with you, like if you recollect, you must be having solution. Array 24, I'll show you, 2480 into 3 and 4300 into 5. So 28,940 hours is a standard time. The team is 80% efficient. That means definitely the team will take more time to complete the work. No, that comes to 36,175, and you are anticipating some 20% downtime also. So 43,410 hours will be my total requirement of producing 2480 units of A and 4,300 units of B. Efficiency ratio is 80%. That means definitely the team is inefficient and there must be taking more time than what is prescribed. So naturally standard hours must be lesser than actual hours. This is what we are supposed to do. Whenever hours are considered as a base, formula is standard hours upon actual hours into 100. Whenever you consider output as a base, then only it is actual output upon standard output into 100. It is hours. Okay, so actual hours are 36,175. Question only says that there is a 20% downtime. 20% extra time will be given on productive hours worked. Okay. Now, please understand one thing. Each worker can work for 40 hours in that factory. Each worker can work for 40 hours in that factory. So for 4 weeks, 160 hours work can be done by one worker. Because we are dealing with 4 weeks. Each week 40 hours, 4 weeks, 160 hours. Each worker can work for 160 hours, but guys, we have 180 such workers with me. 160 into 180, 28,800 hours will be paid at a normal rate. And 14,610 will be paid at a premium. Your hourly rate is 25, so this will be paid at 25. Overtime is paid 50% premium pay, so 37.5 will be paid for overtime, and that's how you are going to get the labor cost. It's that simple. 43,410 hours you are supposed to work for. You are supposed to pay them for. See, actual work is of 28,000 hours. Being 80% efficient, they will be taking 36,000 hours. Plus 20% time is given as downtime. So 43,410 hours are required to be paid for. Each worker can work for 40 hours in a week. So for 4 weeks budget period, each worker can work for 160 hours. Each worker can work for 160 hours. I have 180 workers. So total 28,800 hours will be paid at a normal rate. Out of 43,410, 28,800 hours will be paid at a normal rate, and balance 14,610 hours will be paid at a premium of 50%. So 25 is the base rate plus 50%. 12.5 will be the bonus or the overtime payment premium. So 37.5 will be paid, and get the total, you will get the labor cost. It is so simple. Same thing was supposed to be done here. You had a quantity to be sold. In the next question, you had quantity to be sold. 37,500 was your 37,500 was your next quantity to be sold. 41,250 third quarter, 45,000 fourth quarter. So in all, you were planning to sell 1,53,750 units. You wanted closing stock of 16,250 after that. So you should have 1,70,000 units, but 10,000 you already have. So you decided to produce 1,60,000 units. You decided to produce 1,60,000 units. Now the question says 80% of the current quarter is produced in the same quarter, plus you produce 20% of the next quarter. So I'll show you. 80% of 30,000, 37,500, 41,250, and 36,000. This is what I'm going to produce in the same quarter, plus 20% of the next quarter will also be produced. In the second quarter, 37,500 units are required to be produced. 20% of it, then that means 7,500 will be produced in the first one. In the third quarter, I'm going to produce 41,250. 8,250 will be produced in the same quarter. In the previous quarter, 45,000 I'm supposed to sell in the fourth quarter. 45,000 I'm supposed to sell in the fourth quarter. 20% of it will be produced in the third quarter. You understood this? 80% of current sales will be in the same quarter, will be produced in the same quarter. 20% of next quarter will be produced as well in the current quarter. So 20% of 1, 2, 3 will be produced in 1, 2, 3 quarter. 20% of quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 will be produced in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. Plus 80% of the same quarter will also be produced. So guys, 31,500 you are planning to produce in the first. 38,250 you are planning to produce in the second. 42,000 you are planning to produce in the third one. Now guys, out of 1,60,000, 31,500 will be done in the first one. 38,250 will be done in the second one. 42,000 will be done in the third one. That means 48,250 will be done in the fourth one, which is a balancing figure for you, which tells you the closing balance to be 12,250 and all. That's fine. So this is my production budget, quarter wise. This is my production budget quarter wise. 80% of the same, 80% of the sales in the same quarter. 20% of sales in the previous quarter. I know the total production to be 1,60,000. Out of 1,60,000, if you are going to finish this off in first 3, you are left to be produced 48,250 in the last quarter. Simple. You can find out the consumption by applying 2 kgs. You will get consumption of each quarter. Take the total consumption together of all 4 quarters, add closing stock of material less opening stock of material will give you quantity to be purchased, and the moment you get quantity to be purchased, it was to be completed in only 3 quarters. So the total quantity to be purchased, like for example 1,60,000 into 2, 3,20,000 is your total consumption requirement. You want closing stock of 5,000 after that. You already have 10,000 with you. 3,15,000 is required to be purchased. Out of that, 30% in the first, 50% in the second, 20% in the third. You will get the quantity to be purchased in first 3 quarters into 2, 3, 4 will give you the total cost of purchase. It's that simple. Again, I'm stick to the same thing. Quantity to be sold. Even in this question, it was given. I'm telling you, follow that chart. Sales, production, consumption, purchase. Sales, production, hours, labor. Any question can be solved. 99% I told you. 1% of course we'll be discussing now. Have you clearly understood this? Have you absolutely clearly understood this part? Okay. So guys, this is what we do in case of functional budget. and I think things were comfortable in terms of understanding. Sales, production, consumption, purchase is something that you are supposed to remember forever. This chart is more than enough to crack any functional budget question. Is this clear? Okay, so let's go for that 1%. 99% of the questions will be solved based on this chart. What about that 1%? 99% questions will be solved with the help of this. Your all categories will get covered here. 99% of categories will be covered in these three illustrations. What is that 1%? Now we'll discuss that. Now there is a similar question related to budgetary control in application topic. So please go to page number 225. Please go to page number 225, application topic. Question number 4. What was the question? They gave us sub-assembly as finished goods. There were 3 finished goods, ACB, MCB, DP, having different selling prices. And there were 4 different types of materials required to be produced. Baseboard, 4 different raw material required to be consumed. Baseboard, IC08, IC12, IC26. So 3 different types of finished goods were required to be produced by consuming 4 different types of raw materials. This was required in this question. We also had selling price available, and we were also given material prices. The direct labor time and variable overheads information was as follows. We had number of hours of 2 categories of workers, grade A, grade B. Number of hours, if you multiplied by the rate, you get labor cost, and you have labor cost. Once you have labor cost, you can go for variable overhead per sub-assembly. Per sub-assembly means per unit. Per unit means this is a direct cost. I mean, this is direct figure available. You can directly pick it up and write it down in the solution. Laborers work for 8 hours a day and for 25 days in a month. That means in a month, worker is working for 200 hours. You want to make your worker work for 8 hours a day and 25 days in a month. That means in a given period of 1 month, one worker will work for 200 hours. So if you want to get 400 hours work done, appoint 2 workers. If you want 20,000 hours work to be done, employ 100 workers. It is that simple. Then you have information about opening stocks, and question had clearly said later on your closing stock is 10% less than opening. It was given in the question, your closing stock is 10% less than the opening one. Your fixed cost was expected to be 7,57,200 and company wanted a profit of 12 lakhs. Now please understand one thing, if company wants a profit of 12 lakhs, profit cannot be recovered unless the fixed cost, profit cannot be earned unless the fixed cost is recovered completely. So 7,57,200 is a fixed cost which is also to be recovered first. So you first recovered 7,57,200 and then you recover 12 lakhs from the customer. That means basically your contribution should be 19,57,200. So we have the required contribution available in the question. The company is eager to reduction. Okay, that is about closing stock. And then we have information about what? Then we have required information. Sales budget, quantity as well as value. Production component is must be material. So material usage, material purchase, even that can be done. Manpower budget, even that can be done. Manpower budget showing the number of workers and wages paid. Okay. So ideally we should go for quantity sold. Now see, as I told you, there are three types of situations when quantity sold will be given. We don't have quantity sold given in the question, neither we have sales given in the question, nor we have selling price, neither we have quantity sold given, nor we have selling price and nor we have sales value given. In fact, cost per unit information is available only with respect to material, labor and variable overhead. So we don't have other information about other overheads. So I told you 99% questions can be solved with the help of this strategy. 1% is this one, that whatever we are discussing. But it is pretty simple. Listen, you know one thing, no? The 19,57,200 should be your contribution. And when you already know that 19,57,200 should be your contribution, just simply find out contribution per unit. Just simply find out contribution per unit on the basis of given information. Array, it is so simple. See, I have selling prices of all three products. From this selling price, if I reduce variable cost per unit, I will be left with contribution per unit of each product, which can be equated to 19,57,200 in some by doing some calculation, and things will be simple. You understood this? Yes. So what are we supposed to do? See, I'll first revise something. You need contribution per unit of a finished goods. You need contribution per unit of a finished product. If you need contribution per unit of a finished product, you will need finished goods column, ACB, MCB, DP. ACB, MCB, DP, 3 columns. Selling price of ACB, MCB, DP will be recorded on the first line, and then we'll subtract the variable cost to get the contribution per unit. How will you get the variable cost of material cost of ACB? 60 into 1, 20 into 8, 12 into 4, 8 into 2. So if you see 60, I will have to spend on baseboard, then 160 on IC08, 48 on IC12, and 16 on 16 and 16 on IC26. So 60 plus 160, 48 plus 16. 284 will be the material cost of ACB. Similar calculation can be done for MCB and DP. 60 into 1, 20 into 2, 12 into 10, 8 into 6 and all that. Okay, so you have material cost per unit for MCB. Let's talk about of ACB. Let's talk about labor cost of ACB. 8 hours and 16 hours is the requirement. 5 and 4 are number of hours. So 40, 64. $104 will be the labor cost, and 36 will be the variable overhead. So 284 material cost, 104 labor cost, and 36 will be your variable overhead cost. So 424 will be total variable cost, which will be subtracted from 520. Guys, you already have the solution, so there is no point in wasting time on solution now. So contribution per unit of ACB is 96. Similarly, you will get contribution per unit of MCB and DP, and they have clearly told you that sub-assembly will be in the ratio 3:2:2, 3:4:2. So 96 contribution of MCB, contribution of DP will be multiplied by product. Now there are different ways of doing this. You can go for equivalent production. I prefer one simple technique. I'll assume total cost to be X, a total quantity to be X. I will expect total quantity to be X. If total quantity is X, then 3 by 9X, 4 by 9X and 2 by 9X will be three quantity structures. Multiplied by per unit contribution will give you individual total contribution of three products. You already have per unit contribution with you guys. You already have individual contribution per unit with you, multiplied by quantity of ACB, MCB and DP. Multiplied by quantity of ACB, MCB and DP. Multiplied by quantity of ACB, MCB and DP will give you total contribution of ACB, MCB and DP. I assume total quantity to be X, and if I assume total quantity to be X, ratio 3:4:2 is to be applied on X. So 3 upon 9X, 4 upon 9X and 2 upon 9X will be the quantity. Multiplied by contribution per unit of three products will give you total contribution. Merge that, divided by, okay, if you merge that, don't divide, you merge that, that will be your total contribution. Equate it with 19,37,200, you will get value of X, and value of X is your total quantity. Split that in the ratio 3:4:2 to get the sales quantity by. And once you get sales quantity multiplied by selling price will give you sales budget, and that will be your first answer. Prepare a statement of contribution, sales minus variable cost, you will get contribution per unit. Assume total quantity to be X. Assume total quantity to be X. So 3 by 9X, 4 by 9X, 2 by 9X, 2 by 9X multiplied by 96 contribution per unit of MCB, contribution of per unit of DP will give you total contribution. If you add all three, you will get some figure. So once you do this, you will get answer here as 932x upon 9. Now 932x upon 9 is nothing but your total contribution 19,57,200. You already decided, no, 19,57,200 should be my contribution to recover the fixed cost and to earn profit. So 19,57,200 into 9 divided by 932. 18,900 will be your total quantity value of X, which will be split in the ratio 3:4:2 for ACB, MCB and DP. So 18,900 divided by 9, okay, so this will be 6,300. This will be 8,400 and this will be 4,200. You understood this? Have you clearly understood this? You can use equivalent production concept also to complete this, but this is the simplest way. Total quantity is assumed to be X. So these will be three quantity structures, X in the ratio 3:4:2. So 3 by 9X, 4 by 9X, 2 by 9X will be the quantity. Multiply by contribution per unit, which you will calculate. That will give you total contribution, which will tally with this 932x upon 9. This will be the total, which is 19,57,200. So that will give you value of X. And the moment realize value of your X, things are simple, no? I mean, that was a starting point, no? I mean, we started the solution with that. This is your quantity sold multiplied by respective selling price will give you, sales budget. This was the only important and only new point in this question. Rest everything is what? Production budget. Okay. Quantity to be sold plus closing stock, which is 10% less than the opening stock. Minus this opening stock will give you quantity to be produced. And then you have to go for consumption budget as usual. Whatever quantity of ACB you are supposed to produce, multiplied by all these individual consumption units, MCB, quantity manufactured multiplied by 1, 2, 10, 6. DP, quantity manufactured multiplied by 1, 2, 4, 8 will directly give you your total answer of consumption. Add closing stock of raw material, less opening stock of raw material, same thing. Closing stock of raw material. See, now there will be 4 columns in material consumption budget. Baseboard, IC08, IC12, IC26. How did we do it here? X and Y. So there will be baseboard, IC08, IC12 and IC26. Write down how much of ACB to be produced, how much of MCB to be produced, how much of DP to be produced, multiplied by straight away these figures will directly give you the consumption quantity. Add closing stock, subtract opening stock. Your opening stock is available. Closing stock will be 10% less than this, 90% of this, you will get material to be purchased. Apply these prices, you will get purchase budget. This is the exact replica of whatever we have done earlier. For labor, yes, there was a separate calculation required. You first, you're supposed to calculate number of hours required on the basis of production. Since you have 2 grades of labor, there will be 2 columns. Quantity to be manufactured of ACB into Chin2, quantity of MCB into Chin2, quantity to be produced of DP into Chin2 will give you total hours. That will give you the total number of hours required. We are supposed to recruit employees as well, guys. So those number of hours will be divided by 200 hours, because in a month one worker can work for 200 hours only. So total number of hours you get divided by 200, you will get number of workers, and please round it off to the higher side. Round off the worker to the higher side, and that will be a number of workers. Pause. So if you do all that calculation, you will realize that grade A will require, say, what, 115, 120 hours, and grade B will be required 2,30,000 to 40 hours. Boss, in order to sell the quantity which we have decided in the first working note, in order to produce the production quantity which we have decided in number 2, boss, I need so many hours. I know my one worker works for at the most 200 hours. So guys, to complete the workload of 115, 120, $575.6 workers will be required, and for carrying on the workload of 230, 240, $1,151.2 workers are required. You can't have a 0.6 worker and 0.2 workers. Okay, so this has to be rounded off as 576, and this will be rounded off as 115. Two. Don't apply your mathematical rounding off knowledge here. There will be a problem. Because if you apply mathematical logic, you will have 1151 workers, each one will work for 200 hours. If you hire 1151 workers, each one will work for 200 hours, and at the most you will be able to complete 2,30,200 hours work. So what about balance 40 hours? You want me to go or what? You understood what I'm talking about? You want so many hours to be executed to complete the required production. So you have to go to the higher side and book number of workers. This is the advantage of budget, which lets you know in advance that for full, this is the requirement of hours, this is a requirement of time, and this is the number of workers which I'm supposed to hire. These are the number of workers which I'm supposed to hire. But then each one will be paid 200. Each one will be paid for 200 hours, no? That will give me the actual total number of hours. If I am going, I need 576 workers, I will employ 576 workers. So each worker will be paid 200 hours. So 115, 200 hours are required to be paid, even if your requirement is less. 1152 workers, if you hire, you have no choice. So each one will be paid 200 hours. So 2,30,400 is gonna be your total number of hours paid. Multiplied by rate. If you apply the rate here, 5 and 4 can be applied, and that will give you labor cost. This is what we are supposed to do. So this was important question from two perspectives. One is it was not getting fit in that 99% category. So contribution was required to be earned. We found out contribution per unit. We split the quantity by assuming total quantity to be X. We got value of X based on total contribution. Then we applied production budget in a normal manner, consumption budget in a normal manner. In case of labor, I realized that so many hours were required to be worked for. Oh, each worker can work for 200 hours. Okay, so many workers are required to be employed. I have to go to the higher side because otherwise there will be a shortfall. But now each worker will be paid for 200 hours. So my total payment for the current year, my outflow of the current year will be for 115,200 and 2,30,400 hours. But sir, they are using only, I know they are going to be used only for so many hours. So balance production will be sold in the next year. Why are you worrying about it? But at least you have realized one thing. If you hire a worker, you have to pay that worker. So your outflow is fixed now. Your outflow will be 115,200 into 5 and 230,400 hours into 4. There is no negotiation in it. That will give you the total labor cost here. Is this part clear, guys? Are you absolutely clear? Fantastic. So that was your application. If you see the fifth question, it was a combination of flexible budget and standard costing. I'll simply cover flexible budget part of it. The budget was given for 80,000. The budget was given for 80,000. Actual output was 72,000. We were supposed to find out variances. The basic primary factor is your comparison has to be done at par. Your comparison has to be done at par. So 80,000, budget of 80,000 is converted into budget of 72,000, and then budget of 80,000 will be converted into budget of 80,000, and then it will now be converted into, it will be compared with, or other actual data of 72,000 will be compared with the budgeted data. So 80,000 budget will be converted into 72,000 budget, and then budget of 72,000 will be the base, and actual of 72,000 will be compared with budget of 72,000, and you will get variances. Exactly similar calculation. For that, material per unit, labor per unit, variable overhead per unit will remain same. So simply calculate per unit, per unit, per unit, and simply apply that on 72,000, and your work is done. I told you guys, for variable cost you are supposed to focus on CPU, and for total you are supposed to focus on and for fixed cost you are supposed to focus on total. Am I right? The next part was standard, which I'll discuss later. Ratios also I'll discuss later in standard. So there was nothing left related to budgetary control. So that was budgetary control for you, my friends. We have discussed flexible budget, we have discussed fixed budget, cash budget is already done in FM. So there is nothing to be discussed. Just one question on master budget. You were just supposed to prepare the cost sheet here. There is nothing to be discussed in this question. And if you are expecting me to discuss this question, that means you're not prepared for this attempt, because this was simply getting the total. It was simpler than a cost sheet question. This was also the same. For variable portion, CPU was the same. For fixed portion, total was kept the same. So there was nothing strategic. There was nothing differentiative point which was required to be discussed in this question. Question number 7. It was pretty simple. All other conceptual discussions we have already covered. I think this much is enough for budgetary control, and otherwise also we are always there. Helpline is there, Zoom session is there. So don't worry about it. I think this much is enough to crack budgetary control topic. Thank you so much guys for watching this video. See you soon.